Welcome back, dive enthusiasts. We're thrilled to present part 2 of our interview with the one and only Gus Gonzalez from Dive Talk. In the first part, we learned about Gus's impressive certifications and how he started the Dive Talk network with Woody Alperin, which has now become a hub for divers worldwide. Now, by the way, if you're not already subscribed to Teach Me to Dive on YouTube, now's the time to hit that bell for notifications because you won't want to miss a single interview. In part 2, we'll dive deeper into what he predicts for the future of the dive industry. We'll also hear about his most challenging cave penetration and exciting plans in the works for Dive Talk Network. So, grab your cave snorkel and dive gear because we're about to explore uncharted waters with the amazing Gus Gonzalez. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more incredible insights from Dive Talk. Let's dive in. Now again, my name is Benjamin Hatfield and I'm a technical dive instructor with Teach Me to Dive, connecting divers with quality instructors, dive shops, dive locations, and dive agencies for training around the world. Maybe you can learn something.
Yeah.
That's all.
And just like you can learn as a diver, you can also learn as an instructor. So for any instructor watching this, I learn a lot from the instructors that I've had over the years. One of the things that I learned, from example, from Ed Sorensen was about recording my students, right? I always knew that there could be value on recording your students as they do drills and things like that. But Ed makes it kind of the center point of every debrief. So after you're done with your dive for the day, you will go and watch the video. And he mounts a camera on his mask, so he's not fiddling with like a big setup or whatever. He's being 100% safe, and the video is always secondary. Safety is first, right? He's not paying attention to the shot or lighting things up or anything. He just hits record and records the whole thing. But it's indisputable. When you're going to analyze something and you're going on a debrief and he shows you on the video what you're doing, it's different when someone can tell you like your trim was off or your tanks were off or whatever was off versus, well, what do you think is off? And then you're watching yourself in the video and be like, yeah, my trim is off and the tanks are off, right? So that I took from Ed, and as I was teaching students, I can do the same. I can record them. This is not us against them or giving feedback. You can literally hit play. All right, you watch, you tell me what you think is wrong. And they can often spot where they need to do, better on or improve on.
Beneficial to do that in open water, do you think?
As long as you're not fiddling with it, right? I mean, there's no risk of having a paralens or some other kind of mounted on your mask camera. I use this little Sony right here. So not to say that paralens is the only camera. This thing mounts right on the side. You hit record the whole dive. And most of the time, there's nothing recorded that is really important. Like there's nothing to bring up during a debrief. You can just debrief your students as if you didn't have a camera whatsoever. But sometimes it's good to let's go back and watch the video, right? After you're back at the hotel, everybody took a shower. Hey, let's get together. Let's look at this thing. I think for any class, it could be a good tool. You can always not use it, but it's good to have it if you need it.
It's a good point. That is absolutely an excellent point. I love that, and it's definitely a neat way to go.
Yeah.
I use that a lot for my intro to tech, my tech fundies course, as well as side mount courses. And I use my cell phone. I've got a case for it.
Yeah.
We walk right back in. We have a projector. I move the screen, and there's a whiteboard behind it. Projected on the whiteboard, and I can draw on them. And I say, hey,
that's awesome.
Here's what I noticed. What do you think? How are we going to correct this or that? So,
yeah,
I love it.
And it's indisputable, right? Because I've had students in the past, especially the younger students, when you're like, well, you were blowing out of your mouth instead of your nose. No, I wasn't. Well, now we have video, right? It's a lot easier to have.
I hadn't thought about taking that to my open water class. I like that. I like that idea of just grabbing a paralens and just recording everything through the process. And worst case scenario, I get nothing.
Right.
Best case scenario, I get something that helps them. So rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it.
That's right.
That's fantastic. So how do you feel that you're working to change dive education, and what do you think needs to be improved in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the ways Dive Talk is changing or has improved dive education is, again, by openly discussing situations where things didn't work as well as you thought. Like most divers, I'm just talking about open water regular divers out there, are not reading DEN reports and NSS CDS accident reports and things like that. There are divers out there that do get into that and they want to learn by doing that. But I think we make it more accessible because everyone watches YouTube, right? We make it more accessible, and we make learning about some accident that happened in South Africa, just to name something, easy for someone anywhere else in the world to learn about rather than going and trying to find information about it, right? So I think that's how we are helping with education, and to understand that safety is important as well. I think that the one of the things that the industry is kind of backwards on is the understanding behind the power of social media and the influence some people can have on social media. I think the industry as a whole doesn't really understand that. I've had conversations with multiple companies that don't really see the point, or think everything is business as usual when it comes to diving, right? When it comes to making courses about diving, when it comes to making gear, and trying to spend millions of dollars in advertisements to show that they have the best computer or whatever. I mean, social media is super powerful. And I think the companies that are embracing that right now, companies like Deep Six, for example, totally embracing social media, have the best fighting chance. You have a small company in the middle of nowhere in Georgia that can, sell gear against giants like Scuba Pro and all these other, big manufacturers. So I think the industry needs to do a better job, getting into this century and when it comes to social media. That's for sure.
Fair enough, and that's something that you all are getting into it big as well. I mean, you're taking your clients and your students into virtual environments and training them on that. Would you like to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think when people watch our videos, they always wonder what it is to take a class with us, right? What would it be to have a class with Woody and Gus? And they want to learn from us. Now, again, we are not full-time instructors. We realize there's other scuba channels out there that that's all they do for a living. They're either instructors or they have a shop and they want to sell their gear. And it's always weird. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, if you're watching this, I'm not talking just to you, Benjamin. I'm talking to everyone watching this.
Sure.
Have you noticed when you watch gear reviews, it's always whatever is best is always stuff they sell. It's never stuff they don't sell. It's never like, oh, the best BCD is this thing right here that I don't sell or I don't use. It's never like that. And it's weird because you'll see like top 5 BCDs, and then they'll break it down out of the industry. These are my top 5. And then you go to their online shop and that's the only 5 they sell, right? How interesting is this? So it's always weird. And for instructors as well, they will promote classes and bash on other instructors, as long as they are not related to them, or they, it's never authentic, right? Um, and I think, for us, when we started doing dive talk and people are like, we want to take a class with you guys, we wanted to make the best of the situation that we're in, which is a global audience. So we created classes that we can teach virtually, and we've also done classes in person. Last year we did a stress and rescue class that sold out, right? We had, I think, 15 students or something like that between me and Woody. But the challenge with doing non-virtual classes is that it costs a lot of money to get there unless you live close by. We chose Florida, South Florida specifically, because you can fly from anywhere to Miami, let's just say. And even if you were from overseas, there's a lot of flights that go straight to Miami. So we said, look, if we have someone who wants to fly in for a class, we'll give them priority and we'll make it easy for them to get there. So we had 15 people. I don't think anyone in our class was from South Florida. Everyone kind of flew in. And we had a blast. It was a great class. And we're open to doing more things like that in the future. But every time we announce something is in person, our market, or not our market, but our community gets smaller because not everyone can travel, from Australia to Florida to take a 3-day class. That's just hard, right? So virtually is a lot easier. And luckily enough, a lot of agencies are doing a great job with the virtual platforms and allow us to teach things like an ecology class, for example, online. And now we're trying to work on bringing a nitrox class to be delivered virtually, which some agencies are doing already. This is not groundbreaking. This is not Dive Talk invented it. We just know that people want to learn from us about nitrox. They know that we dive trimix. We're full, trimix certified, and they want to hear from us what it is to dive with nitrox and, spend a few hours learning from us. So we're going to make it happen.
That's fantastic. In fact, you recently had a pretty big success, if I remember correctly, with a science of diving class.
That's right. Yeah. So we've taught, I believe, 3 classes online, And every time we've done a class online, we've kind of broke the record for the agency on number of attendees, right? Because a lot of people want to learn from us. And a lot of the people that attended the first class sign up for class number 2 and class number 3, right? They really enjoy the format. And I think if you enjoy watching us on Dive Talk, where we have no agenda and no script, taking a class with us is the best because even though we have some objective and things we want to teach you, we're not reading from a script, right? The agencies are not telling us these are the things you need to read and you have to tell them this way. That's not how it is. So you get to spend hours learning from us and asking questions, and we do it like a mini dive talk. We do giveaways. We make it super fun. So yeah, the science of diving class. I think when I was working as an instructor at a regular shop, we would struggle to get like 4 people in that thing. 3 people, 4 people. I mean, this if you taught
Right.
that class before, not a whole lot of people showed up, and then we did science of diving, and I believe we had 150 or something like that students show up. It was just massive. People loved it, and they keep asking us to do another one. So we need to plan it and execute it.
Wow, 150 people in one class.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think for night trucks, if we can get around some of the limitations, not only from the dive agencies and whatnot, because I think, there are agencies already out there that are teaching night trucks virtually, but also the platforms, right? What platform can you use to teach a class like that? Like, what if 500 people decide to take the class? We want to open it because, again, we're not full time instructors. We can't teach night trucks every night or every week. So if we're going to do this thing once a year, we want to allow everyone that wants to get nitrox certified from Woody and Gus to sign up. So if 500 people sign up, is there something out there that will allow us to teach 500 people and be effective? So we're looking at it from the technology point of view as well.
Absolutely, and that's
Yeah,
got to be challenged. And the logistics on that and answering questions directly of students when you start getting to that size has to be tough. But it's neat to be able to embrace the technology and say, "Hey, look,
of
here's the
course.
opportunity. Here's how we reach people." There's a lot of people that are in inland dive shops that don't have that time to get into a shop, or like you with stress and rescue, you wanted to take the class, wanted to take the class, but you couldn't. And
That's
so
right.
you end up going somewhere else.
That's
Well, there's a
right.
lot of classes out there, like for example, science of diving or ecology. That there's people in Bozeman, Montana, that would love to take that class, but there's not a dive shop in Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah.
So
And we know that we are going to get criticized, in the industry. We're going to have tons of instructors that are going to say that teaching a virtual nitrox class makes no sense. But that was also the same thing for virtual any class, right? Before a
exactly.
lot of industry or a lot of agencies started having virtual training, everybody chastised them and said the only way to learn how to dive is in person. Taking anything virtually makes no sense. And now virtual learning is common. Like most agencies have some sort of virtual learning that you go through it, they cover some of the content, and then you do some part with the instructor. But when you start thinking about it, a lot of hesitation from agencies have been completely unfounded. And I've mentioned this. I said, look, on a legit virtual class, I can have 10 analyzers and expose people to 10 different analyzers, which we're never going to have on a
Mhm.
regular class that you show up at a dive shop. They'll have one, maybe 2 analyzers, and they'll show you how they work, and that's all you get. But, the power of Dive Talk is that we can actually get 10, 15 different analyzers and look at all of them and show you how they all work. And I even said, look, I guarantee you take any instructor, you, Benjamin, and you teach a class, let's say with 3 students, a nitrox class with 3 students, normal, like in person, like you always do. And then we
Sure.
give you another 1 or 2 students and you do it all virtually. If you take those 5 students and you make them test, like with other instructors and instructor trainers and whatnot, and they get to analyze their tank and fill their logs and do the things they learn, there's no way those people, unless they ask that you take the class virtually or in person, I think you would do a good job regardless, and they will be able to do the nitrox analyzing, the MOD calculation, the filling of the log, the actual skills of diving with nitrox. I think they'll be able to do it whether they learn virtually or in person with you. It's all about the instructor in the long run. It's not the medium they used to teach. So I said, look, if I can do this experiment and you cannot spot the students that learn virtually, would you make an exception and let us teach this thing virtually? And once you put it that way, they don't even have to make the experiment. Everybody knows, like, yeah, I think people would know how to do it. I mean, I'd replace. We have a new scuba band. I replaced the fuel tank by watching a YouTube video. I'm pretty sure analyzing a nitrox tank is easier than replacing a fuel tank in a van. So
I would hope so.
yeah. So I think
Absolutely.
we can be very effective. Not just us. I think instructors overall. If you're a good instructor, it doesn't really matter. If you do it virtually or in person, you can do a good job either way.
No, and I agree completely. And I'm right there with you in terms of you'll learn just as much through the virtual portion. And I like recording my classes as well. What I've discovered is I can send those classes over to the students and they can go back and I can see the numbers. You and I both know the
Yeah,
analytics on that. So I go back to see and I one of my open water classes that I sent over to the students, it's been on for a month. It's private. Nobody can get to it but these students. There's 100 views on it. And I went back and I talked to the students. I'm saying, hey, what's going on? They said, well, we went through a lot and we got a lot of information, but there was a couple things I just need to go back and relearn and re-understand now
sure.
that I've had a chance to do it.
It's great.
Same thing with nitrox, and it's such a powerful medium to move into this 21st, 22nd century almost idea that we can use the power of social media, we can use the power of YouTube and the power of cameras to our advantage to help our students become better divers. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's what we're trying to do in the end is just make a happy community or a happy tribe, as I like to call it, of divers that are diving safe and having fun.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of hesitation in the industry to be first, but there's always going to be an agency that will step up and be first, out there. And then everybody will follow suit once they realize that, yeah, it's pretty effective. And I'm not saying every class is open to be a virtual class or as effective. Of course, teaching stress and rescue virtually makes no sense, but, or first aid and CPR, but you need the hands on for that. But Nitrox is there. It's kind of borderline. I think the discussion is whether you can be effective by learning virtually or do you have to do it in person. And I would say if you do a double blind test in this thing, you cannot spot the students that learn virtually versus the one that learn in person.
No, I agree 100%. I even kind of back out of that though is that I believe you can do a lot of the classroom portions of these and make it more convenient and easier for your students, even at stress and rescue. There's a lot of class pieces that,
Yeah.
hey, let's meet tomorrow night at 8 o'clock when everybody gets home and relaxed. Change into your jammies, have some popcorn and a pad of pencil and a pad and paper, and let's relax and let's do this
Let's
virtually.
go over the
And then
theory. Yeah.
next week we're all going to show up at the pool and so instead of the traditional model of, okay, we're going to show up at the pool at the dive shop at 6 o'clock, we're going to chat, and then we're going to do our class, and then we're going to get changed at the dive shop. We're going to talk for a little bit, and then we're getting in the pool, and we'll be out at. That was my class last night. I got there at 6. I left the shop at 11.
Yeah. And
How much easier it would have been?
I think the ugly truth also behind it is I don't think most people realize is that there is other incentives for dive shops to bring people indoors, right? They want people to shop there. They want to do, as part of their class, let's do a tour of the shop and pick a piece of gear and tell me why you would want to own this gear. And they have all of these things, and I don't think is the shop's invention. I think agencies are driving that. They want to create
Sure.
revenue and they take time to talk about trips and they talk. I get it. I understand the dive shop have an incentive to bring people in, but we're not a dive shop. We don't have that incentive. We just want to be as effective as possible and deliver the best class we can without any ulterior motives. We're not trying to sell analyzers. We're not trying to sell people on going on a specific trip, nitrox trip. Like, we don't care about any of that. We want to give people the best possible instruction and don't care about anything else. And I think that's why they keep coming back and taking our classes whenever we get to teach them, which is not often. I get it. We need to do it more often, but whenever we do it, we sell out because people realize that there's no other motive besides teaching the best class we can.
That's fantastic. And again, I think it comes back to, and your success is obvious because of your authenticity and honesty and integrity on that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of people do as well. So on that same line, how do you see the dive industry really evolving in the next few years?
I mean, I think that you will see more companies realize the power of social media, and that will drive improvement in products tremendously. I think that when people realize that anyone can test gear and put it online and give their review, I think they will push them to do a better job to compete, or else they'll disappear. And it's interesting how things have changed. I feel like even 5 years ago when I started diving, you would stay away from certain things and you would tell people like, I wouldn't buy that kind of BCD or I wouldn't buy those regulators. But now gear is getting really, really good. There's always like your one offs that will come up with like, oh, we're reinventing the fin or whatever. And you're like, but why though? Like the regular fin works so much better. I love to see innovation though. And I think that the products that are going to be, you know, innovative and effective will remain and will grow. So I think there's going to be more of an embrace of influencing in social media and relying on what divers that are very public will say without getting paid to say it versus we tested this with a lab in Missouri and they came up with this results. Like no one cares. Like let me talk to real divers. What do they think about this thing? They're not trying to sell it to me. They're just literally telling what they think about it. There's a lot more of that is going to come up. And I think that is evident by the YouTube channels and divers that are trying to do this, some of them way more effective than others. I think that are a lot of people out there that are on YouTube that, some of them are even very unhappy with our success that don't really understand the formula. They're trying still to operate in the old way of the industry, which is let me teach you how I am the best of the best and you should listen to me. People don't want to listen to you if you're saying you're the best of the best or believing it. We don't say it or believe it. You know, I think there's a lot of fake humility too. I've seen these guys on YouTube that are like, wow, it would be so great to dive with this guy. And then I get to dive with him and they're like, yeah, these guys are not like they are online. And that's one thing with Woody and me that people say is like, oh, you guys are exactly the same. I thought you were putting up a character. I thought you had a role to play. No, this is us. Woody does wear hats. He does that outside of YouTube. There's nothing made up about Dive Talk. So that's how we are.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So you've been successful in this, and you and Woody are both very successful. Quite the Batman and Robin duo there, and I
Yes.
really enjoy it. But that success doesn't come without hard work and doubts and challenges along the way.
Hmm.
We have a friend in common, Christina Zanetto. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
But she asked this question. She says, "What was the loudest doubt you heard in your head as you moved forward with your plans, and what did you do to quiet it down?"
Yeah, I think the loudest doubt in my head, and I think it was in both of our heads, is to fall for the old style of doing things. Like if you watch some of our videos, we in some of our early videos, we want to demonstrate that we know what we're talking about, right? We have Woody doing an assembly of a sidewinder and explaining all the steps. We have Woody doing an assembly of the Kiss Spirit and explaining along the way. He's an instructor on both. So I wasn't going to be on those videos. He's an actual instructor on those units, but he wanted to prove that he's actually an instructor and he knows what he's talking about. I have videos where all I'm talking about is how I configure my shear water computers. I want to show people that I really know what I'm talking about. And those videos did very poorly. Like people don't care that we know what we're talking about. They want to be entertained. And so the biggest doubt was, should we just, you know, talk about stuff that is entertaining and ignore all of these opportunities for videos that we actually want to talk about? We want to talk about ways we set up our gear for cave dives. We want to talk about why we set up things in the way that we set them up. These rebreathers are never the same. We're all tweaking them based on personal choices. So people say, can you guys make videos talking about how you set up your gear for you and talk about those videos? Yes, we would love to do that. We love talking about our gear, but they do very poorly. So I think the biggest advice is that we learn early on, like a few months into it, is we have very limited time to record videos and go out diving and do these things. So we want to do what people want to see. We love to engage with our community. We love listening to what they have to say. We have tons of videos that people are asking, like, why are you reacting to this? This is kind of dumb. Why are you doing this? Well, because we got hundreds of emails of people asking us to do it. So would we prefer to be reacting to a video from Christina Senato, for example, who's an amazing cave explorer, and I look up to her big time? She's one of the speakers coming to the meetup for that reason. Of course, we will love to talk to Christina and watch our cave explore for hours. We would prefer to do that than see a bunch of lunatics diving in Chernobyl. But people want to see us watching lunatics diving in Chernobyl, so we give them what they want. We still enjoy it. It's not that we don't enjoy it. We won't do it if we're not going to enjoy it. But we give people what they want. A big example is when we went searching for gold in a river here in Georgia, right? We reviewed and reacted to a video of a guy that almost drowned, trying to pick up specks of gold from the bottom of a river. He completely overweighted himself. He had like 40 something pounds of lead. And then when his BCD wouldn't inflate or something, he couldn't come up and he almost drowned in like 10 feet of water. It was kind of scary. So people are like, "Oh, you guys got to do this. You guys got to do this." And I was always like, "No, like if I'm going to go diving, I want to go diving on something like a cave dive or something like that. Why would I go dive on a 5 feet deep river in North Georgia? That makes no sense." But you get that a few hundred or thousand times, and there we were diving on a river in North Georgia looking for gold, right? So we just give people what they want, and we have fun in the process, and I think that's the way to do it.
Fantastic. Oh, that's a great thought. So, how do you approach mentoring and supporting others as they're coming up in the dive industry?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really mentor a whole lot of people. I'm currently, helping my brother because, well, he's my brother, and I really enjoy doing things with him. He's 3 years younger than me. There's only two of us, two brothers. I wish I had more brothers and sisters, but I only have one, and he's 3 years younger. And I got him into diving. I believe it was in 2021 or 2022, something like that. I certified him as an open water diver, and I take him diving once in a while. Obviously, nothing cave or anything like that, just regular dives in open water. And he really, really enjoys it. So I've been having a lot of fun getting to mentor him. I hope one day I get to mentor my kids. I have 3 kids. I hope they become divers, and I can dive with them. But I haven't had the chance to do a lot of mentoring in the diving side of things. However, I have the chance to mentor a few people trying to do YouTube and being successful with it. I've never held back from trying to help people on how to grow their channel. And again, not that I'm an expert, but I always tell people, like, look, here are the 5 things I tried that didn't work. So that way you don't try them, right? Just go straight to the stuff that works. So if the challenges that we've had and the failures that we've had along the way can help others avoid it, then that's great. I've never shied away. We've never shied away from collaborating with smaller YouTube channels or bigger. It doesn't matter. And we understand that people are going to criticize us regardless. Like, it's funny to see the criticism when we collaborate with a small channel. They tell us we're taking advantage of them because we are using them and their content and they have only 7 subscribers or whatever. But then if we collaborate with a bigger channel like Mr. Ballin, then they say we're only taking advantage of their big audience. And that's the only reason why we want to collaborate with them. So it's like you can win. People will criticize you regardless. If they see you swimming, they say, if they see you walking in water, they say it's because you can't swim. So we kind of learn along the way that we'll have detractors. And, we don't do it for them. We do it for our fans and for the people that enjoy watching our videos. And if I have a chance to mentor more people into either making content or diving, I always welcome it.
Fantastic. Well, let's just jump right into that. I think that's a good segue. If you 33 million views and 247,000, you obviously know something about YouTube
Right.
and how to grow it. So talk to us how a dive shop can build a strong YouTube following.
Yeah, I mean, I think avoiding all of the things that you think are important, like we did at the beginning when we thought that showing people how good technically knowledge, we are and all this stuff. Just avoid that. That doesn't work. No one cares. There's a reason why these amazing divers out there that we like to promote in our channel don't have large followings. Is because they focus so much into what they know how to do so well, way better than us, that they miss out on taking advantage on creating content that everyone will watch. And I think that's one of the main things that really set us apart from other scuba channels is that we create content that anyone can watch. Like sometimes my mom will tell me, it's like, "Oh, I was watching that video. That was crazy." Like, my mom doesn't even know how to swim, right? So it's one of those things where you want to make content that is appealing to everyone and have fun in the process. And I've always say we're entertainers, number one, right? We want to entertain people. We want people to unplug, I love reading those comments of I wake up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee and watch Dive Talk. I love that. I want to entertain people, and they can learn in the process. I think learning, doesn't have to be boring. And that is one thing that I think dive shops struggle with, which is they want to talk about a piece of gear. Okay, I'm going to grab this pen right here and let me tell you how awesome it is and how long it is and all of that. That is not as entertaining as taking that pen and writing something funny, or trying to write left hand, or like try to create another spin. Um, One example is when we reviewed Spare Air. So many videos about Spare Air online, reviews, and like, oh, this is 3 cubic feet, 6 cubic feet, all this stuff. We were like, how about we go to 100 feet and bail out to a Spare Air and see if we can survive? Let's do that. That's just a different way to look into it, right? I was talking to the people from Dan. Dan has great content, right? Educational content when it comes to learning about, you know, getting bent and things like that. Dan has second to none amazing stuff. But I told Dan at Dima, I said, look, if you gave me the budget and the creative freedom for a day to do content for Dan, here's what I would do. I would go to the middle of nowhere and have like a heart attack and call Dan and see what happens. Will a helicopter just show up and pull me up into the helicopter and fly me to a chamber or something? Is that what's going to happen? Because that's what I want to see. I don't want you to tell me that's what would happen. I want to see it happen. So go out there, call emergency. Like, hey, I got a bent guy 50 miles offshore in North Carolina, and see what happens. Are you going to get airlifted to Duke? Or is it all BS? Right? That's kind of our approach with content. And I think that in order for dive shops to be successful and dive channels to be successful, they need to take that approach. Just keep it real, Don't do the same thing everyone else is doing. So that's how I approach it.
Fair enough. So, what's been the most challenging aspect of running a successful YouTube channel?
I think keeping up with the content creation, because we don't do this full time, has been a challenge, especially lately. Starting this year, Woody was immersed in his business. He's very, very busy. I, got a new project that started demanding a lot more time from me, and it's been really, really tough. Recently, for the first time since 2020, we took a break of like 2 or 3 weeks or so that we didn't post videos. We were releasing 2 videos a week, every week, nonstop since like 2020, and so it was really tough to make the content. So, but fortunately, again, our subscribers and the people that watch our channel understand that. I posted something. I said, look, for the first time ever, we're taking a break. Neither one of us is available to make videos. And in the past, I feel like we've coped out. Like I've made videos that is just me or just Woody, whoever is available, just go and post something out there. And we realize that our fans appreciate quality over quantity. So if we have to take a week or two in order to make a better video, they appreciate that more than just releasing something out there just to say that we're making videos every week. So that's been
Fair enough.
challenging.
Absolutely. I would imagine with such a popular following, dealing with the trolls has definitely got to be interesting as well.
I think it was interesting for the first couple months until we realized that, it is never going to end. It's there's always going to be people out there trying to get a reaction from you, trying to collect some attention they're seeking or whatever. So we just ignore it, and we don't filter our comments. I know that there are channels out there, very successful channels, that really come through their comments and start deleting anything slightly negative that they say about them. No, like if you call us idiots on YouTube, it's going to stay there unless you're like straight up, cursing or something that gets flagged by YouTube automatically. For the most part, we don't care. If you think we're idiots, that's your opinion. Of course, we are kind of idiots in some of these videos, so you're probably right about that. So we don't censor stuff like that. We're pretty open to it. And then sometimes you do get comments once in a while, about how come are you wearing that hat on a video that talks about death? Like, there's always fashion police out there. There's, your comments like that. And I think it's a lot easier when they know that we know we're not the greatest divers and we're not pretending to be the greatest divers, and we're just regular divers that like making YouTube comments. So when we get people that tell us, I would have never done that. Then our answer is, well, because you're a better diver than us, right? You're better than us. You would have never done it because you're better, and we're not, and so be it.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And the helpful humble is always a good way to go. So what do you hope viewers are going to take away from your content?
I mean, I guess it all depends on the content. I just hope that people are entertained. That's number one. We don't make content to be the authority in training or anything like that. I think there's always something you can learn from our videos. The video that we're dropping up pretty soon is a video of our own dive. We're trying to record more of that. There's always a risk, and that's one thing people don't understand with YouTube is that there's always a risk with reaction videos because we can get flagged and all of the revenue goes to the person who made the video. Even though reaction videos are supposed to be protected over fair play because you're transforming the original video. I'm not uploading the original video and that's it. We're adding our commentary, we're stopping, we're teaching people things.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be covered under fair use, and we're supposed to get revenue from that. The way YouTube works is that it allows anyone to claim infringement for any reason. And if you don't like it, you can take it to court. Like they don't want to get involved. YouTube is not going to review. They get countless of hours every second uploaded to YouTube. They don't have time to review all this stuff. So they kind of leave it like if somebody fights, they can take the money. You can contest it and take it to court if you want. So a lot of our videos are not monetized, or even though they're showing commercials, it goes to the person who claimed ownership of the video. And we could employ a full-time lawyer to go fight them. And we think we would win every single case because it's covered under fair use. But the honest truth is we don't make enough money to be hiring lawyers and fighting people on court. It's like we don't do it for that. We don't do it to be full-time YouTubers. So, if you feel compelled to claim that the video is yours and take us to court, we'll take it down or you can keep the money. I mean, it is what it is. So, even though we have all those views, 33 million, as you mentioned, I think the top 10 of our videos, most watched videos, we don't make any money on any of them. Um, and a lot of our videos are demonetized because of it. So the only way you can ensure that happens is by making original content the way you're doing it right now. This interview is original. No one can claim that they own it. That's the way you do it. But in order for us to make original content, we have to go places, and that costs a lot of money. So unfortunately, we cannot make original content our sole content yet. Hopefully one day we can.
I think that's one of the bigger surprises that I found out through this interview is how little monetized it really is. And I mean, I think we all look at it and say, "Wow, it's being successful. It's got this huge following. They must be obviously driving a Ferrari and living in a big house."
Right.
Um, so that's definitely surprising, and it's also been surprising for me how accessible both of you were. I reached out. I said, "Hey, Woody, I'd like to do an interview." He said, "The only pushback he gave is I just need to know the qualifications of the person I'm gonna be talking to. Are they open water? Are they instructor? Who are they?"
Yeah.
And I sent him over. I says, "Well, it's me you're going to be talking to, and here's my qualifications. I'm a dive master instructor and technical dive instructor through XR. That's my background and my experience." And he says, "Okay, cool." And
Let's
then
do it.
popped in. We had a 20-minute talk the first time, and then we did our interview. So
Of
and the
course.
same thing with you. I reached out the other day, and you reached back right back,
Do it
and
tomorrow.
yeah, let's do it tomorrow. No
Why
big
not?
deal. And then all of a sudden we were talking. In fact, I responded to you at I was on a break on my stress and rescue class.
Yeah. I love that you were like today, you were like, I should have sent you these questions, but I didn't. And I'm like, well, that's great. That's how dive talk works anyway. We just
That
do it
was
live.
that was the other surprising that
Every
you guys
answer
don't
we've done
script
is
it
live.
out. You put it up, you watch the video to make sure it's good to go, and then you're like, "Hey, Woody, check this out."
Exactly.
I hope it feels like the life commercial, right? "Hey, give it to Mikey. He'll eat it. He'll eat anything." And let's go. So it's a lot of fun that way. I really like that as well. So definitely good advice.
Yeah, I
So there's
appreciate the invite, Benjamin. It's been a
oh
great,
good.
great conversation.
Absolutely. So I'm curious that we're all curious about you, and I'm not, I'm in the majority here that our industry is really based upon risk and risk management. So
Mhm.
tell us about a risk that you took and how you overcame it.
Um, in what terms? Like scuba
In terms of
related or?
diving with Dive Talk with your diving career.
I'm trying to think of risk. I'm pretty much risk adverse. I feel like even on things that people consider risky, I've gone above and beyond preparing for those things. I would say, going on my first exploration trip was risky because I had never done it. Every time we are doing something for like the first time, I feel like that is the biggest risk that I'm taking. But at the same time, we prepare heavily for that. I think the most recent was going to Woody's Room at Peacock Springs, which is a very
Mhm.
challenging dive. Even people that we talked to, they had never done it, or they did it like back in the 80s, and I'm never doing that again. That those kinds of dives. Are you sure you really want to go there? Type of questions. And to be fair, it took me 3 attempts before we reached it. And Benjamin, my buddy, was his fourth attempt when we went, and he's a very capable diver, cave diver as well. And we finally did it. So that was a risk that we took to make it there. It was an objective. We prepared, we knew that we were ready, and we went for it. But yeah, I mean, I even on those situations where I feel like it's a little risky, I'm always super extra cautious, very prepared for those. And I do things like simple things like, I know, because it's so hard to get to, people want to watch what it is like going to Woody's Room, but I'm not going to record because I'm 100% focused on getting there. And, things like that, where you make those decisions to, not put yourself in extra danger if you can avoid it.
Fair enough. That's absolutely good advice. Mitigate the risk before you step into it.
Yeah.
Always a great piece of advice. So, what advice would you have for individuals who are interested in pursuing a career in diving?
I would say, just dive as much as you can, get a ton of experience, learn from others, try to shadow, classes and things like that with others. I think that, affording the gear and getting things can be very expensive when you're starting, but don't rush through it. I feel like because of how recent my experience has been, my certification starting in 2018, most people assume that I rush through every class and every training, and that's not the case. I can't remember any class that I took with like minimum requirements. I was just out there every time trying to do the work. There's no shortcut to it, and you can see it even in our videos. If you see some of the early videos, you can see over time how my trim, my buoyancy, the way my gear is set up, it's been getting better and better and better. And it will continue to get better as we move forward, right? And that's because I'm out there diving. There's people that have, they don't have money to go diving, but they buy $5 coffee from Starbucks every morning, right? I don't have that. I don't drink coffee. I don't do drugs. I don't even drink alcohol, except for like once in a while socially. I don't spend money in other things, or I don't spend time in other things that is not being with my family or working or diving, right? So I think, we have friends that are cave divers, rebreather cave divers that work in by minimum wage, and they can afford it because they've made a commitment to it. And I understand that, the challenge is, are you willing to make that commitment? Are you willing to commit to become a better diver? There's people that will never, for example, take a class. They wouldn't get a C card at the end, and there are, instructors out there that would spend 3 or 4 days with you without being in an official class. They will make you a much better diver, way more capable, even though it's not an official class, just by spending time with them. And people just don't want to commit to do that. So if the question is, how can I dive a lot more while changing none of my lifestyle that cannot afford me to go and dive, more, then I think you're out of luck. You're stuck. You can't do that. You have to make a commitment if you really want to be, a proficient diver and really get to a level where you can do some of these more challenging dives.
Right on. And you've been blessed. You've done some pretty amazing dives, that's for sure. But every diver in their career has an oh crap moment. What was that for you?
I mean, I've had a few incidents, but nothing major. I've had two catastrophic rebreather failures inside of caves. Deep inside caves. I had that twice. I've been, kind of stuck in a few places, but we have rules for that. Like, I don't take my gear off when it comes to going through caves. And the reason for that is the safety. So people ask us, like, what if you go to a restriction and then you can't get back? Well, if I don't take my gear off to go through the restriction, then I can always take it off on the way back, which means that if I fit with gear on this way, I'm going to fit no mount the other way, right? So I always have kind of rules like that where, I don't bend them for anything. And even on those situations where it's been like, oh no, I've been able to get out of it because of the safety that we put and the planning that we put before the dives.
That's awesome. Tell us about the most challenging cave you penetrated thus far.
I mean, with some exploration we did in Cozumel, where I was the, kind of leading lane line in some areas. There were some, holes that were pretty sketchy, and it's always complex when when you're in a cave, like going to Woody's room. It's a very challenging dive. I don't recommend it to beginner cave divers, but there's a line there. You know that someone made it through. You know that you can follow the line and continue. But when you're the one exploring, it's really, really tough. Sometimes I went, I don't know through how many tiny gaps that I'm like, I wonder what's going to be on the other side. Is it going to be a massive room? Am I going to be able to turn around? Do I have to back out of this thing? Like, I have no idea, but I'm going for it. And I had this thing in my head. It's like, what would Mike Young do? And it was always go. So I was fortunate to go and always have the ability to turn around or come back. And I had a great dive buddy. So really all the credit goes to those guys that were with me during that trip, and not so much of what I did. Is more of an attitude that you follow based on what the team is doing. So yeah, we've always been able to get through it.
That's fantastic. And I like you referenced Mike. Mike is coming up in an upcoming segment about KISS. So we're
It's
very
amazing.
excited about that. Can you share any exciting projects or plans you have in the works for YouTube or Dive Talk?
Not really. I mean, we have some diving coming up. Very excited about our meetup in July. We did one meetup last year. Only 25 to 28 people came. We wanted to prove a model, which was, you want to dive with us? Well, meet up. Let's get together in a place and let's go diving together. And, we booked this little hotel in South Florida and we sold every room within 2 hours. And there were like 28 of us on the boat. We had a boat for ourselves. And it was awesome. So we decided to do it this year in Cozumel because we knew more people wanted to come, and we completely sold out all of our rooms. I think we have 130 people coming this time. So we're going to be diving with all of our subscribers that are coming. And hopefully, it will prove to be as successful as the meetup number one was. So we can schedule something even bigger for 2024. Hopefully in 2024, we get to go to other places, not always do it in North America, right? Can we go to Europe? Can we do one in Dubai? Can we do one in Australia? I don't know. We'll see where that goes, but we're very excited about the meetup.
That is exciting. Anything else you want to share with us today?
Just thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate the comments that people left on the interviews with Woody, part 1 and part 2, where they were like, "Where's Gus?" Well, here I am. Thank you for
There you
asking.
are.
And yeah, always fun to talk to you, Benjamin.
Gus is a real person.
I do exist.
I do exist. Gus, thank you so much for taking the time and your willingness to join us today and help us with understanding your world a little bit, because it's definitely a more complex world than I think a lot of us would expect. I mean, you guys are very entertaining and definitely fun, but there's definitely a lot more in the interview with both of you. I'd like to express that I've learned a lot. You guys are definitely qualified and understand what's going on more than you like to let on. You jokingly say, "Hey, we're idiots," and that's okay, but that's not the truth. That the truth is that you guys are both well qualified and have a deep understanding, and even more importantly, a care for everybody around you. So I appreciate that greatly.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for us today on Teach Me to Dive. I appreciate it. We've had Gus on. We learned a lot in the dive talk world for both Woody and Gus, the Batman and Robin of the diving world, out having fun, and more the Adam West Batman, if you will, rather than the Christian Slater, right? So the fun Batman, not the one that's "I'm Batman." So the last question for you: if you two are Batman and Robin, which one of you is Batman?
That's a good question. I do like the gadgets and stuff, so I would say I'm more of the Batman, but I don't have the money, so I don't know. It's complicated.
It's complicated. Fair enough. Gus, thank you again for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.